Now, step two is where this piece is going to really start taking on some very dramatic effects, because we're going to put some rich darks back in some of these areas. It's a really strong contrast, especially when you put darks next to these lighter areas. So let's go into step two now and see what we can do. Now, if you look at the palette, when I talk about dark, my idea of a dark color is exactly that. We're talking dark. This is violet and orange. I'm putting a little bit of blue in it just to darken it even more. This is cyan blue. Because now we're going to come back in these recesses back in the woods, and we're going to put even more negative trees by coming back in this area, for example. Popping in just a little bit of color. And you'll see all kinds of tree branches going everywhere. And so remember, we're not trying to paint trees, we're trying to paint shapes that will be interpreted as trees. I keep stressing that because that's a very important factor. And again, come in, just soften a few edges. Now look how that takes the eye back into the woods. So let's do some more over here. So these are the trees that are in the background. And we see little pockets of color between the branches that are crisscrossing through the woods. And when you look out in the woods, that's exactly what you do see. You really can't tell half the time what branch goes to what tree. You just see patterns of light and dark. You see overlapping shapes, crisscrossing back and forth. And you get the impression of looking through lots of trees. As we get up into this orange foliage, we're kind of blending at the edge out a little bit, so you get this nice transition from these bigger trees up into the upper areas of the forest. And I'm using a 1-inch brush for this for two reasons. One, it covers a territory a lot faster. The other is I can't get too tight with a 1-inch brush. All I can do is make little suggestions of value and color that kind of take the viewer back into the woods, but I'm not getting too tight with it. Now let's put a few on this side over here. So if you notice, all the trees I've painted so far are negative. They're negative shapes. I'm actually painting a tree by painting the dark around it. Now we're going to come in a few minutes and start putting in a few positive trees in this scene. Right in this area specifically. They're almost backlit. So let's work on some of those. Let's take these two trees right here, and even a couple of these maybe, and just put a little bit of dark color on those to make them look as though they're backlit by that bright light which will be coming through the forest. I'm starting out with a nice strong mix of orange. This is Orange Lake, and I'm skipping over some of these areas where the foliage comes in front of the tree. And very lightly do some soft blending. To this side, which is actually away from the light, I'm putting a little bit of violet with it. Do the same thing on this tree over here. Now I'll put a little bit of blue in the mix also to make it even darker. Remember, we're in step two, so step two is our darks. So let's just go ahead and really try to capitalize on that. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue yet, because this is the side of the tree that's kind of away from the light. So you get this nice leafy thing sticking down in front of that tree, which gives a lot of dimension to the painting. Now let's not overwork that tree. Let's go over and work on this one a little bit and do the same thing. We're going to start out by putting orange on the side facing the light, which is over here. Skip over some areas of foliage and bring the color down. This is a fun way to paint. This is one of those paintings you just find a nice rainy day and just sit down and just work on it, because you can go as much detail with this as you want. My recommendation is don't get too detailed with it, because what makes these paintings pretty, in my opinion, is it's a nice, fresh, loose watercolor feel that they have. But if you're the kind of person that likes a lot of detail, these paintings are certainly well suited for that, because you can make 1,000 little negative trees and branches back into the background if you want to.